Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This video is pertaining to black women in prison. There are many factors that contribute to the increase of black women in prison. Mainly are to do with poverty, inequality, the images of the mass media, the inequality of the treatment within the criminal justice system. We have many stories of black women today, and I hope you can follow them and relate to them in a formal way. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
I've served 30 years.
I've served 33 years.
42 years.
I cried every day to want to go home.
I didn't kill anybody. I was there. I just happened to be there.
Nothing really ever changes. You're just waiting to die. You're dying out loud.
I'm a woman, I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter, I have a son. I'm not an angel, I'm not the devil. I came to jail when I was so young. I spend my time here inside these prison walls. Lost friends to death, some go home.
You were involved in a felony of any kind and someone winds up dead, even if you didn't kill them, didn't want them killed, didn't intend for them to be killed, or had no way of knowing they'd be killed, you were guilty of murder.
When you see the word lifer, regardless, the first thing you think is that that person killed somebody. And in Pennsylvania, that's not always the case.
People don't understand that we so widely use life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I'm in here for murder. I have a life sentence without parole. In 1974, my husband, who had been married before and had 4 young boys, actually killed his wife, his ex-wife, in the midst of a custody dispute. I was outside in the car with our baby son.
We reached her house after dark. I remained outside in our car with our baby son, and Frank entered Martha's house through the back door.
As the co-defendant in her case, I possess a unique perspective which no one else could hope to approximate.
He entered the house alone and struck the victim twice in the head with a flashlight in an effort to render her unconscious. He placed a rope around the victim's neck in order to drag the body to the car.
After some time had passed, I heard Frank open and close the trunk of our car, and then came around to the passenger side where I was sitting and told me to get out of the car and come into the house to help him get the 4 boys up and out to the car. He said that Martha was dead, that he had killed her, and that he had placed her body into the trunk of the car.
I didn't know what happened until after it was over, but I was considered a co-conspirator because I didn't turn him in, or I helped him in the aftermath.
They got the boys in the car and the body and drove out to some farmhouse, and they buried her.
Of course, it's changed my life completely. I was a young person. Well, when I met my husband, my life changed because he took a lot of my future plans away from me. You know, he kind of led me with him instead of going, I wanted to go to college then, and I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that, and I had a lot of big plans for the future. And of course, they all went down the tubes.
She was a homely looking girl
not pretty, really smart, super smart, not popular, real low self-esteem. She met a man who was a lot older than her, like 10, 15 years older, at work, at a job she had, and he was already married with children, and she fell in love, they fell in love, they had a relationship. This was her first relationship. He's equally as smart as she is. They're both members of Mensa.
I joined Mensa when I was about 18. It's an international organization for people who have tested in the top 2% of the IQ of the planet, I guess, whoever took the test, I guess. My IQ at the time I took the test was 149. When you make bad decisions that result in a catastrophe, as any homicide would be, you don't make decisions based on your intellect. It wasn't an intellectual situation, it was an emotional situation. And I just didn't know how to handle it properly anyway. I think about it all the time. There isn't a moment, any day that goes by that something doesn't remind me of something in connection with what happened.
My name is Danielle Hadley, and my number is 008494. I'm in prison for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. I was 23 at the time, and I met some new friends, per se, and they were into smoking cocaine. And, of course, me being the person that I was then, of course I'd try it, why not? We went to get high one evening, and guys got into a fight about money.
On September 9th, 1987, Thomas Humphrey knew that my cousin Christine Edwards and I had been at the home of Mr. Wilkins a couple of times in the past few weeks to smoke. Thomas told Christine that Mr. Wilkins owed him some money. I heard them talking about it, but it didn't seem serious to me. Thomas and Mr. Wilkins went into the kitchen. This is when I thought Thomas would ask for his money, but I couldn't hear if they were talking or not. As they were returning to the front living room, Thomas punched Mr. Wilkins. Christine and I jumped up towards the front door in the room. We wanted to get out of the house. I remember thinking to myself, when is Thomas going to stop beating him? As he fell, Thomas grabbed him around the neck and did so until he was unconscious. Thomas yelled at Christine and I to help him restrain Mr. Wilkins. I didn't want to go near them. Since I had been using handcuffs for a keychain, I grabbed them out of my purse and threw them at Thomas. Thomas then told Christine to get the phone cord so that he could tie up Mr. Wilkins, and she did. As we were leaving the house, we realized that the door had been locked inside with a deadbolt. Thomas went back to Mr. Wilkins to search his pockets for the key. Thomas noticed that Mr. Wilkins was coughing, so Thomas took the scissors from the table and stabbed Mr. Wilkins in the neck. I remember Christine and I were screaming. We were so scared. I couldn't believe what I saw and the actions of Thomas. I was scared. It was horrible, violent acts to witness. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid.
I don't know. For myself, I feel like I deserved some time. I deserved to be punished for my role. But the rest of my life, my whole entire life, no.
People age out of crime. It's one of the most important scientific facts. It's very well established in the criminological literature. It's not an alternative fact. There was a study in California a few years ago, almost 900 people who were lifers who were released, and the reoffending rate was about 1% of who actually went back to prison for a felony. I don't think it's justifiable to keep people incarcerated. If they're not posing a threat to public safety, they have a very low recidivism rate when they come out, and we're denying their human dignity. Why are we still incarcerating them?
In the United States, we certainly have had a graying of the prison population, and so There are many more older inmates who are incarcerated now than there ever have been before, and a prison was not designed for older people.
The actual perpetrator took a deal for second-degree murder, although he was also sentenced to life. And because I did not take a plea agreement and took the case to trial, I was found guilty and given a sentence of first-degree murder.
The way we define female criminality is different than we define male criminality. There's almost a level of tolerance, more tolerance for male violent behavior than there is for female violent behavior, because female violent behavior is so rare. We consider such an aberration that it seems less worthy of a second chance. Even though these women, many of these women had, long abuse histories, or they had male co-conspirators. That's another thing you see very frequently.
I think in part, there's a longstanding assumption that men commit crime because they're bad or because of economic need. For women, committing crime is sort of seen as just a violation of their feminine nature. And so the idea that a woman would commit a crime just seems not just sort of deviant by virtue of violating a norm, but also deviant by virtue of violating some larger cultural norms about femininity.
Inmates will tell you this is death by incarceration.
My name is Joanne Butler. My number is 005961. I'm here for first-degree murder. Well, I was drinking that night.
Not only did I have no reason to be at the victim's house on the night of July 14, 1979, I didn't know her well to have a grudge or reason to harm her. That night in Philadelphia, I was home. I was not expecting any company or had plans to be going out. My co-defendant's siblings, Ann and Foster Jones, to my house and invited me to go to a bar with them. Much later that night at the bar, Ann told us to come with her to Cynthia's house. She lived near the bar. When we got there, Cynthia was sitting on her porch with Ann's boyfriend. And as soon as Cynthia saw us coming, she quickly jumped up and charged at Ann with a knife.
And then I remember her pulling the knife out and start stabbing her.
Ann had a knife. As a tall and strong young woman, I tried to separate Ann and Cynthia, and as a result, my shirt was covered in blood. I didn't have a knife. I didn't kill Cynthia Delgado. At my trial, all of my co-defendants testified against me. I am challenged intellectually, emotionally, and mentally, and I cannot read or write. I am innocent of murder. My co-defendants took advantage of my disabilities. My family didn't have any money to pay for my defense. I regret not being able to help her.
This lawyer was representing her in her post-conviction. There are substantial gaps in the records of this case. As far as I could determine, Ms. Butler was scheduled to enter a plea to third-degree murder in front of a judge. This judge refused to accept her plea because, I believe, he had some reservations to her competency to plead. The case was transferred to Judge Malmed, heard without a jury, and Judge Malmed entered a finding of first-degree murder and sentenced her to life. Terrible. The brother and sister threw Joanne under the bus and said she had the problem. It was her knife. It was her idea. She couldn't even help her own defense. You know, Joanne got stuck with the murder.
I was a very aggressive prosecutor. I was probably the the prime sponsor of more mandatory minimum sentences than you can think of. We thought that by doing that, being tougher on crime, would make our streets safer, but that was a failed system. I got carried away in regard to that issue.
Well, commutation means that you essentially make your case to the Pardons Board, the Board of Pardons, which consists of 5 members. And if they vote a majority to give you a hearing, then you actually have a face-to-face with them. If you don't get that majority, your application is rejected out of hand. It takes about 4 years for an application to process. You need a lot of letter support, and take some time about your own case and your narrative, and they're going to look at that very closely to look at how much responsibility you've taken, whether you're remorseful or not. And so they vote on this, and if they decide to have you a hearing, and then in turn they vote after they hear you, it has to be 5-0. Can't be 4-1, can't be 3-2. And then it goes to the governor. If the governor signs it, you're essentially on parole the rest of your life and you can leave prison.
I don't believe that in my term on the Board of Pardons that we've commuted any women life sentences. And it's years of doing things the wrong way. But I think justice demands that we take a second look at these folks that we have behind bars for life without chance of ever getting out. They're not going to be a good prisoner if they think I'm stuck in here forever. And that defeats the whole purpose of rehabilitation. We've been warehousing people, human beings, and it's not the right way to go.
I do believe we have to look at what are we doing, and more so than that, we have to look at what is it that we're trying to accomplish. Do we want to keep the public safe? I know that violent crime has actually decreased, but our incarceration rates have increased. So what's our goal? And I believe our goal, and it's a way that we approach the system, is to make sure that the public is kept safe.
A second can just ruin your life.
And that's what happens in the wrong place at the wrong time. You do the rest of your life in prison.
To sing the song, it meant so much, and to hopefully show people through that we were actually just women.
Gotta get through another year. I am a prisoner for the wrong I've done. I'm doing time here. This is not my home. Dream of freedom, hope for mercy. Will I see my family or die alone? I'm not saying that I'm not guilty.
Move far, far away, 14, 16 hours away, to transfer to a prison where Sister Margaret is at, the leader and the founder of Revelation Seed. I didn't know why I was going there. I was by my home. I was in Danbury, Connecticut, 45 minutes away. Prison visits every 2 weeks with my family. But the Spirit of the Lord led me to go over there. I was saved, but I wasn't sanctified. This woman taught me sanctification. Hallelujah. She taught me how to walk holy before a holy God. Hallelujah. She taught me how to be a woman of God and a woman of honor. I bless the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. But I honor my mother in the Lord for teaching me the way. Amen. My sister Stacy.
Hi, my name is Stacy Holloman. I'm from North Carolina. God delivered me in prison, behind the prison walls. I was diagnosed with cancer in the mouth, 1998. I was sentenced in 1996. I came out of prison in 2000. But God delivered me in the prison wall. The devil said I wasn't going to make it. He gave me 3 months jail sentence. But God said no. God said no. And I met Sister Margaret in Alderson, West Virginia. And how I know, how I know God. I know God through this lady. The light of God just shined through her. And remember, never put your mouth on God's people. And God taught me a revelation through the cancer in my mouth. You need to shut your mouth sometimes. And open your mouth when you're supposed to open your mouth. Only through the anointing. When you are called, when you're serving a purpose for God, open your mouth for God. Don't put your mouth on God's people, because there's a price to pay. Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord, saints. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, saints. Oh, don't worry about what I'm wearing and how I look. Amen. Where I've been. You just need to know it could have been you. Amen. It could have been you. Amen. My name is Donna Hubbard. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I am the woman at the well. Amen. I was a prostitute on $1,000 worth of crack cocaine a day. Amen. I thought I'd never make it. They told me I'd never be nothing. Amen. But I want you to know that God delivered me over in the prison walls. I wasn't saved from prison. I was saved in prison. You need to know I was set free inside prison walls. The judge gave me 24 years, but Jesus Christ gave me eternal life. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. They called me hooker. They called me hey you mama. They called me dope fiend. But today, they call me righteous. Let's be the hallelujah. 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 I thank God today because I know who he is. I know him in the valley of the shadow of death. I know him. Hallelujah. In the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. Jesus. I thought I knew the Bible, and I thought I knew how to be a Christian when I got saved in the county jail. I thought that meant I didn't have to go to prison. Not. But I was standing before the judge when he gave me 24 years. And he might have given me 24 years, but God gave me what I needed. He let me know that wherever I made my bed, he would be with me. If I made my bed in hell, he'd be with me. And so I was in Lexington Federal Maximum Security Prison. And I wanted something more than just a little bit of religion. I needed to know this thing in its fullness. I wanted as much of God as I could get because I was running for my life. I said, Lord, I want it all. And he sent me Evangelist Margaret Reynolds into the prison system to teach me how to live holy. I thank God for my mother in the Lord, and I thank God for this walk. I wouldn't take nothing for my journey. Let's praise the Lord. Close to Washington, D.C. I went to federal prison. I was doing 10 years, a 10-year sentence, but God blessed me to get out 5 years earlier. I'm still supposed to be there today. But God. And I wanted to say this. I was a rebellious person. I was a rebellious one. I came off the, I know I got this dress and everything on now, but I came off the street. I was a drug dealer. I came off the street with the Timbs and the hoodie. No, y'all don't know about the Timbs and the hoodie. But that was me. And God allowed me to go to prison because as a child, I was molested as a child from the age 4 to the age 14. But God delivered me. And ever since I had got molested, I put in my mind, I said, every man that wants a piece of me, I'm going to make it my business to try to hurt him like he hurt me. But you know what? All I was doing was making myself go further and further down into a hole. But you know what? That wasn't enough. After I went to prison, because of the abuse I suffered, I figured, well, hey, I'm in prison now. Ain't nothing but women and won't nobody know.
Tell the truth now. Tell the truth. Set them free.
Won't nobody know. So I thought I would go ahead and date women. See, I'm free today. I really don't care. I really don't care. Because I got Jesus, and that's enough. And as long as I got King Jesus, I don't need nobody else. But I want to thank God for delivering me, because he wasn't going to let me stay in that shape, because that wasn't for me either. And so I thank him today that everything that I went through as a child, everything that I suffered, everything that I endured, everything that I went through, God let me go through it so I can stand here today and say, like Donnie McClurkin, you can be molested, you can go through sexual abuse, and you do not have to be a homosexual. Hallelujah! I just wanted to say that. God bless you.
God bless.
Oh, she to me, oh, she to me. I don't want no dead black woman. Oh, she to me, oh, she to me. I don't want no sugar in my coffee. It make me mean, Lord, it make me mean. I don't want no sugar in my coffee. It make me mean, Lord, Lord, it make me mean. I got a bulldog, he weighs 500. In my backyard, Lord, Lord, in my backyard. I got a bulldog with 500. In my backyard, Lord, in my backyard. When he bark, he roll like thunder. Up in the cloud, up in the cloud. When he bark, he roll like thunder. Up in the cloud, up in the cloud. When you meet my long-haired woman, just bow your head, just bow your head. When you meet my long-haired woman, just bow your head, Lord, just bow your head. I don't want no bald-headed woman. Oh, she to me.